doesn't matter how much currency you have. If that currency's value drops to zero, then what you have is zero. Likewise, any drop in a fiat currency's value, or reluctance to accept that currency as payment, will decrease the purchasing power of what you have, if what you have is held in that currency. Welcome to Echoes of the Past, bringing you memories, musings and rambles from a time long since gone. I'm Deb, and I'd be honoured if you would join me today as I revisit South Africa in the 1980s and consider how lessons learnt then about money could apply today. This is not financial advice. My thoughts are for entertainment value only. Please do your own due diligence. As economic sanctions tightened around the South African economy and the country became increasingly isolated from the rest of the world, the value of the rand against most developed countries decreased significantly. Inflation increased, people lost their jobs, companies folded, essential services were neglected to the point of near collapse, and life became more and more challenging for everyone. Many were simply unable to survive in South Africa and were left with no other choice but to leave the country. Due to the falling rand and cap on amount of money you could move out of South Africa, it became very difficult to transfer wealth between South Africa and other countries, with many families losing their life savings when emigrating. In an attempt to mitigate their losses, many turned to gold, using the rapidly falling rand, whilst still in South Africa, to buy gold Kruger rands, which they were then able to exchange once they had immigrated, for the fiat currency of the country to which they had moved. Putting aside the possibly dubious ways in which this gold bullion was removed from South Africa, what I did learn from this time was that gold is a universal store of wealth that retains its value in a way no fiat currency ever could. Those Kruger rands helped many families to survive immigration, and I have often wondered how different my own parents' lives would have been had they moved to the UK with gold rather than rands. But alas, that was not to be the case. 23 years ago I bought this 1 ounce Kruger rand from a small coin shop in Chesterfield, Derbyshire, for my husband's birthday. It cost me £200, which was my entire weekly wage at the time. Today the spot price for an ounce of gold is around £1,550. I would need more than a week's bring home pay to buy it now. You tell me, has this coin retained the wealth I put into it all those years ago? I did not buy it to preserve wealth. Ironically, I bought it as a keepsake, a memento of a world we had once known, of a time long since gone, a connection to our past, an expensive trinket that we could pass on to our children. Our lives had moved on from those days of raging inflation and economic unrest. Money was borrowed, spent and made on the stock market. The cost of living remained relatively stable, food was abundant and cheap. Economies thrived off a culture of mass accumulation and frequent replacement of things we didn't necessarily need or know we wanted. Money was cheap, wages were good, gratification was instant. Everything was a bubble. Confidence in the dollar was strong and the economies of the West seemed infallible. What could possibly go wrong? So confident was I in the system that I never asked that question, never doubted the stability of our government, society or economy until 2008, when I came to understand that the entire system was based on cheap debt, and that the only thing holding it all together was confidence that this debt would and could be repaid. I'd like to hope that we won't find out what could go wrong, but logic and experience suggest that eventually this entire pack of cards will collapse. Inflation and taxation have already driven many into poverty. Property prices are falling and mortgage rates are rising. Wages are not keeping up with the rising cost of living and people are struggling. If I were to give my children any advice right now, it would be to buy food today that you can use tomorrow. Because tomorrow the currency that you use to buy it will be worth less. The food will cost more and you will have less with which to buy it. If you have food and still have some currency left, don't put it in the bank. Exchange it for a tangible gold. And if you can't afford gold, buy silver. It won't make you rich, but it will hold the wealth that you have worked for, better than the currency in which you are paid. In no way could I have imagined a time when life in the West would take me back to the lessons of life in South Africa. Yet here we are. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until the next time, keep your memories close, but keep those around you closer. Deb out.